as someone who has a bachelor's degree, an associate degree, a diploma, another diploma, half of a master's degree that I dropped out of because it was the worst thing ever, and I'm currently working on another bachelor's degree, university is a scam. I will be the first person to say that. Don't go to university, college, whatever the hell you want to call it. It is a scam. You don't need a degree, except for things like medicine, law, engineering, arguably, accounting, maybe, finance. Like, you don't need a degree. You don't need one. You will get so much debt, and for what?
Unless you guys want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a scientist, or an engineer, your college degree is becoming more and more useless by the day. I'm not saying that you don't learn anything from college. I'm not saying that college isn't useful. I'm just saying it's becoming more useless by the day. Because a couple of decades ago, if you had a college degree, especially from a good college, it pretty much guaranteed that you were going to have a good life and you were going to make a solid income and you were going to make good connections and get into the right places. I'm 24 years old. I have a business with 19 employees. Some of these employees have multi-$100,000 a year salaries. C-suite executives, right? CFO, COO, guys with 10 plus years experience in this industry. And I can guarantee you that I did not ask them what college they went to on their interview. I asked them what they've accomplished. What are you most proud of? Tell me your story, right? Talk to me about the previous places you worked and what you did there that had an impact. Talk to me about the things that went wrong. Talk to me about the biggest mistakes you've ever made, right? Those are the questions that matter, not what college did you go to. I'm not saying don't go to college. I went to college. I had a great time. I thought I got a lot out of it. I'm just saying that a college degree itself is becoming more and more useless. And so definitely do not rely on that, and definitely do not think that that is going to have the impact on your life that you want it to.
For generations, we were sold a very specific American dream. Keep your head down, get good grades, take out the loans, and a college degree will guarantee you a secure spot in the middle class. But that social contract has been broken. Today, we are watching an entire generation of educated Americans drown in predatory debt while fighting for minimum wage jobs that barely cover their rent, let alone their loan payments. Universities have quietly transformed into corporate businesses, churning out extremely expensive credentials that the modern job market no longer values. Let's look at what happens when the promise of higher education becomes a lifelong financial trap.
I work in retail making basically minimum wage, and I have 2 bachelor's degrees, and everybody's like, why in the world do you work retail? Everybody's trying to give me all of this life advice, telling me to go into healthcare, telling me to go into tech, yada, yada, yada. And everybody's like, why in the world do you have 2 degrees and you're not using them? What are your degrees? Like, what's the story there? This is the story of my 2 bachelor degrees that I have that I am currently not really using. I graduated high school in 2014, and when I was in high school, the high school I went to, like, more than 80% of our graduating class went to a 4-year university afterwards, so it was very much pushed to go to college after you graduated. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college before. I was the first one to even graduate high school, so it was like a big deal for me to go to college, and I was super excited. I switched my major so many times, which is a big play in this. Junior year rolls around, I've taken all my gen ed classes, and it's really time for me to figure out what my major is like actually going to be. And at that point, I had taken a lot of anthropology, history, and sociology classes because those were the classes that I just really enjoyed and had some professors that I really enjoyed. So I had already had a lot of credits towards those 3. So I decided to go with sociology as my major, and I minored in history and anthropology. And I mainly decided that just because I wanted to graduate on time. Like, at this point, if I chose a major that wasn't sociology, I was not going to graduate on time, and I was going to have to continue going to school for at least another year and take out even more loans. And I just wanted to be, like, done with school at this point. I loved the classes that I took and everything that I learned, but I knew the career path wasn't necessarily for me. But at this point, I just wanted to graduate. I graduated with a degree in sociology, and I minored in anthropology and history. I didn't have the opportunity to do an internship or any sort of research while I was getting my degree. I had to work a paying job while I was in school, and there were no like paid opportunities for me. So I wasn't able to get any sort of experience in the field anyways. At that point, I had gotten a better retail job. I was making like double minimum wage in North Carolina. I was doing well, like my own apartment. I was living with my boyfriend. I had a decently paying job for North Carolina standards in retail. So I was doing like okay. So I was like, let me just take a break. Like, I've been in school for a million years. Let me just take a break and chill for a sec and figure out what I want to do. 2020 hits, and of course, COVID happens. Everybody and the mother decided to go back to school. Most people went back and did their masters, but I didn't really want to get my master's in anything like sociology related. So as I was looking into it, I found the program through SNHU, and you can get your degree online. It's fully online. And they had a graphic design with a web development option, which I thought that would be really great. Web development, like everybody says to go into tech. So I thought that'd be a really great idea. I was able to transfer a lot of my gen ed credits from my first degree. So I was going to be able to complete my degree in about a year and a half. What I did, it took me about 2 years instead of a year and a half. So at the very end of 2022 is when I graduated with my bachelor's in graphic design and web development from SNHU. I did it fully online. Before I even graduated, I started doing some freelance work. So I think in January of 2023 is when I got my first like bigger freelance client. And so I was doing well with that. I was just going to do freelance. I was applying to like more corporate graphic design jobs, but I really wanted to go the freelance route. So that's what I did. And that's what I've been doing. For all of you that are curious, that is the story of my 2 degrees.
College isn't worth it anymore. In 2025, anything that involves that much money is not about the product or service. It's about using that product or service as a vehicle to maximize profit. The interest rate on student loans are predatory. You will be in debt for the rest of your life if you take out student loans. But what about the high-paying job you'll get when you graduate? When I graduated with a chemistry degree, I couldn't find anything. I didn't even get hired at the animal shelter I applied to. I eventually got hired at a candle factory making $12 an hour, and my next job was at a spice factory making $15 an hour. That was in 2013, so it was more than what it is right now, but I was not living a comfortable life on that amount of money. So how do you actually get a good job that pays well? In 2025, companies don't care about whether you have a degree or not. They just want someone who can come in and do the job on day one. I know it's not fair, but that's how it is.
Degree in software engineering is not what it used to be. 4 or 5 years ago, when your great aunt asked you what you were going to major in college and you said software engineering, and she replied, "Oh, you'll always have a job with that major." My husband helps a lot of recent college grads land roles in tech, and what he's seeing over and over again is engineering students transitioning to something like tech sales. Reason being, a lot of college programs for engineering are not as rigorous as they used to be, which means that grads are graduating without the competency to excel in an entry-level software engineering job. On top of that, a lot of their work is getting automated by AI. And then what he actually sees most commonly is people come to terms with the reality that being a software engineer is long 10-hour days, minimal human involvement, fixing back-end code in some company's security software. If that's your jam, that's awesome. Software engineering could be a great role for you. But if that sounds like your worst nightmare, then it might be time to pivot. What's cool is sales is a great way to get that human involvement, but then still have a foundation in tech, which for a lot of people, that's why they were interested in software to begin with.
I've had to explain this to a lot of people, but an MD degree is useless without a residency spot. So people think that once you go to medical school and get your MD degree, you're officially a doctor and can be a doctor, but you have to go to residency training. And residency training is where you get trained in a specialty of your choice. And sometimes it's not really your choice. So if you are applying to a competitive specialty and maybe don't get the good board scores or extracurriculars or research or things like that, you may not match into that specialty. And if you don't match into your specialty, then you're essentially unemployed and you only have a few choices. So you can either reapply the next year and take a year of unemployment doing other types of work, or you can look at a non-clinical jobs. I know some people who don't go to residency do consulting, work in pharmaceuticals, things like that are non-clinical, but you cannot work as a doctor with an MD degree, which I think is shocking to a lot of people. So essentially, even if you get an MD degree, you are not classified as a doctor and you cannot work in clinical settings unless you go to residency. And some unfortunate people never match and never work as a doctor because of this.
I'm literally holding resumes, a stack of them, so that I can go in person to places and say, "Are you guys hiring?" It's honestly a little bit embarrassing because I'm literally applying for like minimum wage jobs. This is not what I expected. I graduated college with 2 degrees in communications and acting. I speak 3 languages. Oh, this sucks. Like, I just want to be a TikToker if I'm being so for real with you.
If you think your degree alone is going to get you a job, you're fried in this job market. Unless you went to a top 20 school and did extremely well, then maybe you can submit an application and expect an email back. But even then, some kid who went to some no-name school, but his dad is a client at JP Morgan, is going to get 10 emails back from recruiters before your resume even gets past the automated system. I know it sucks. You're probably thinking, I'm putting in all this work. I'm getting good grades. I'm paying for college. I should be able to get a job, right? Wrong. You have to move different nowadays. Getting a referral isn't an option anymore.
Tell me why I went to a fashion business school. Here's my degree. I went to a fashion business school and I cannot even get a job that makes more than $17 an hour. I work for big brands. Like, I have experience working for luxury brands. I have multiple internships under my belt. I'm very smart. I'm very capable. And literally none of these places are hiring. Every single job, especially where I'm applying to in Manhattan, because it's the fashion capital of the world. I'm like, if I'm going to go anywhere, it's going to be Manhattan. I cannot get a job that pays more than like $17 an hour. Like, am I gonna be poor forever? Like, I'm just like, I can't. And people are like, just keep applying. I'm like, I've been applying every single day doing hundreds of applications. I'm about to call my school up and say that this degree that I spent 4 years trying to get, 4 years, was a waste of money.
I was being nosy and listening to a couple of girls that work at my gym's conversation, and they were talking about how they've had all these job interviews, applied to all these jobs, can't get a job. Now they have to work at a gym. Literally everyone is in this predicament. It's so frustrating. Like, everyone I talk to, they're having these interviews, sounds like it goes great, and they didn't get the job. Who are the companies hiring then? I have not heard one person say, wow, the interview went great, I got hired. Who are they hiring? Additionally, what are we doing? Serving burgers and bartending is really, really burning me out. I'm really sick of it. Do I money launder? Is that even profitable?
I don't think people understand how fucked up it is that we just let kids rack up huge amounts of debt going to college and getting degrees that they'll never be able to get good jobs with. I talk to kids all the time that have racked up a huge amount of debt getting a useless degree, and they're really thinking about going on and getting an MBA that's also useless, that will rack up even more debt for them, and they've never even had a job where they've made good money at all. And nobody in the education system has ever really produced real work in the real world that they've been paid for. It's all these bureaucrats that have just been living in this educational bubble, giving terrible advice to kids that doesn't make any sense, is not translatable to making money in the real world. It's really dark that we're putting so many kids into financial slavery, not even giving them a good shot at making good money with real valuable degrees. I'm going to say it, and I'm probably going to get banned, but your gender studies degree was not a good investment. And it was fucked up of the government as a kid to allow you to take out a really big loan that you're going to be stuck paying for the next 20 years when you're not going to be able to find a job that pays you $100K for getting that degree and putting in that work. Meanwhile, I work with people all the time that have no college degree but have 6 months of sales experience working at a used car dealership. They're getting jobs making 6 figures working in tech sales. The education system is not a place for smart people. If you're a young person and you've never been around successful people, then it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the educators around you, the college professors, know what they're talking about. But they clearly don't, because they ended up as college professors.
I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but my choice in college was potentially the worst decision I could have ever made. And almost 2 decades later, I am still paying for. Not financially, thankfully. I mean, I was paying for that for a very long time. But socially, romantically, professionally, financially, for a very long time, up until a couple of years ago, it was a huge mistake. And if there's any one decision in my life I could have done differently, it would have been not attending the school that I went to. And I would never tell young people to not go to college. I still think college is very important, But I do think the choice in school that you make is incredibly important. Or if you get somewhere and it is not serving you, baby, transfer, leave. Do not stay in a bad situation.
The federal government just decided that if your college degree doesn't earn more than a high school diploma, your program doesn't deserve funding anymore. Starting this summer, entire college programs could lose student loans, Pell Grants, and federal support if their graduates don't clear an earnings bar set by the government. What does that mean? If your degree doesn't make enough money fast enough, Washington says it's worthless. History, literature, fine arts, social sciences, ethnic and gender studies, all on the chopping block. And keep this in mind, this doesn't fix tuition, it doesn't lower student debt, it doesn't stop colleges from overcharging, it just punishes students after they've already enrolled. If you come from money, this barely touches you. If you rely on Pell Grants to survive college, your options just vanished. Supporters call it a return on investment, but education is not a stock portfolio. Some programs take people from poverty to stability, not to six figures. Some degrees don't pay well at 22, but matter for society at 40. And now the government gets to decide what knowledge is worth it. This is about shrinking education into job training and letting anything else die. So ask yourself, if only high-paying degrees survive, who gets educated and who gets locked out?
I owe a mortgage amount of student loans. Yep, that's how much I owe. And I have paid $165,356 towards this amount. But here's the thing. When I started, okay, I owed $96,000. So again, I borrowed $96,000. I have paid $165,356.46, and I still owe $220,810.73. Let me explain to you how I got in this predicament. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I am a PA, and I make good money. I'm not gonna lie. Unfortunately, that good money is still not enough to pay this, right? And so I worked for a nonprofit hospital for the first 2.5 years out of school. My plan was to work for that hospital for a decade and apply for public service loan forgiveness, okay? I even asked our HR department, does this qualify? And they said yes, and that numerous of my colleagues are also eligible and they have filled out the paperwork and they are working towards loan forgiveness. But for some reason, when I applied and I filled out the paperwork online, on paper, I did it literally 8 times. That's not an exaggeration. I got denied 8 out of 8 times to even make payments towards the public service loan forgiveness grant. The Department of Education decided that me, and only me, at my entire hospital works for a for-profit hospital, but all of my coworkers, they work for a nonprofit hospital, despite us working for the same hospital. Now, I called the Department of Education numerous times, and I explained the scenario to them numerous times, and I, at one point, was on hold for 8 hours to talk to somebody, and then when I finally got a hold of them, they said, "There's a glitch, and I don't know how to help you." Cool, that's great, thank you. So after 2.5 years of making payments and stuff, and all of them not even being counted towards the PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, I thought, why am I working here? I don't even want to work here. I was only doing it for this reason, and so I'm going to leave. Something I also failed to mention is that since graduating, my loan has been in forbearance. I never put it in forbearance. In fact, I even signed up for the income-driven repayment plan. I signed up later for the SAVE plan. I kept submitting my income. I have submitted my taxes. My loan has been in forbearance, and I have been making these payments on my own because when your loan is in forbearance, you cannot sign up for automatic payments. You have to just keep dropping it on your own. Again, I called the Department of Education and explained this to them, that I don't know why I'm in forbearance. I'm trying to make payments. I am making the payments. Get the forbearance status off of my loan so I can sign up for auto pay so I don't have to log in here and look at this number and have a panic attack every month. They said, we don't know why it's in forbearance and we can't get it out of forbearance. There's a glitch. That's also part of the reason you're not eligible for the public service loan forgiveness, because you're in forbearance. I graduated in 2022. I have been in forbearance status for 4 years and I can't get out of it. Now, my servicer is Mohila, which has been sued for doing this exact same thing to it's borrowers. I am trying not to cry at this point. I am going to just be in debt forever because I have borrowed less than half of this amount. I have paid almost double what I even borrowed in the first place, and I owe so much money. I am running backwards at this point. I don't think I'm gonna ever pay this off in my lifetime. And the Department of Education, Mohila, is literally making it so that I can't, no matter how hard I try. For those of you who say that you shouldn't borrow money or, whatever, if you can't pay it back, and you guys don't believe in loan forgiveness and whatever because we borrowed it, I'm telling you, I want to pay it back. I literally can't. I have paid it back, and then some. I can't do this, and no matter what I do, I'm stuck. And I chose a career where I am a civil servant for the rest of my life. Does this mean I need to be punished like this? Also, if there's some kind of lawyer that knows anything about the whole Mohila lawsuit and can help me out with how to be involved in it and how to, put my name in for somebody who has been in this situation and literally can't get out of forbearance, can't pay it, let me know.
What we are seeing here isn't a lack of ambition or a bad work ethic. It is a systemic failure of the higher education industry and a job market that is completely disconnected from reality. Millions of Americans did exactly what society told them to do. They signed the dotted line for federal loans at 18, trusted the university counselors, and are now trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare with servicers like Mohila. Meanwhile, entry-level white-collar jobs are either vanishing or demanding years of experience, forcing graduates with bachelor's and master's degrees to work retail just to survive. We have turned education into a predatory debt machine that extracts wealth from the working class and leaves them holding a worthless piece of paper. When an entire generation is financially paralyzed before their adult lives even begin, the whole economy eventually pays the price. Are you or someone in your family currently stuck paying off a degree that hasn't translated into a living wage? How is that debt impacting your daily life? Let me know your story down in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.